the extension of the transition period, the Prime Minister still sort of insisting that it isn't going to happen, without any comment whatsoever on what has gone before with regard to Brexit. Can you conceive of it all unfolding according to the current calendar?
Well, the default position is that the transition period ends at the end of this year.
Yes.
But if there is not sufficient capacity to make sufficient progress by June, which is the deadline for an extension, then it would be irresponsible not to seek an expansion, not because anybody wants to stay in the transition period longer than necessary. And a transition period is an unhappy system of limbo. It would be better if we do go on to something, one way or the other. It would just be a practical, technical question, whether can we get sufficient stuff done this year. And so I would not be surprised if there is an extension. The question is what would be the choreography of doing that? Because it's, as we both know and listeners will know, it's a highly politicised area.
Yes.
And any sense that this is being abused by Remainers will have an equal and opposite pushback from those in favour of Brexit.
Which is precisely why I've avoided mentioning it at all. So what the Prime Minister essentially needs to navigate is a way in which he does what probably needs to be done, but succeeds in looking like he really didn't want to, and that would probably be best for everybody.
And I also think that those who are in favour of continued membership or a close relationship should play their part and not be too gleeful when there is an extension.
I can't quite imagine anybody being gleeful in the context of coronavirus, but that doesn't detract from the accuracy of what you say.
Yeah, it will have to be done on a sort of technical, practical basis. Yes. But I would not be surprised if there is an extension, and all other things being equal, that would be the responsible thing for both parties to do.
I agree with you, and yet I have a slight reservation about it's almost as if we're now pandering to conspiracy theorists. So the Prime Minister should be able to stand up and say, look, of course we're going to have to extend it, because, this is absolutely unprecedented and unforeseen. But because then the usual suspects would start whining about George Soros or about sabotage or I knew it was never going to happen, we now have to accommodate them. But I guess that's just the price you pay for peacefulness, isn't it?
But also we should not be too sort of British exceptionalist about it. The EU may not be in a position to negotiate it
that's
either.
Very true. I hadn't thought of that.
And also other counterparties around the world. The Americans are going to have difficulty in committing themselves to a trade agreement. So it's just not going to be our problem.
So just a simple question of priorities that should be communicable clearly, but obviously given what has happened in the last few years, I completely understand the concerns that you have.